Om Lokaha Samastaha Suki no Bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Phoenix, and we are live. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes here. And yeah, it looks like Bitcoin's wanting to break out here. But I'm a little bit cautious about this move right now. I do have a long position on Bitcoin, but I might be closing some or all of that, probably at least some of that out here prior to CPI. So CPI is tomorrow, Consumer Price Index. They're expecting it to be lower. I'm not sure exactly how the markets will interpret it, but regardless, there's likely going to be some volatility. They might run the stops, drop it down, maybe below 17K. And so I'm cautiously optimistic. So on a lot of the alts, I'm waiting sort of to jump in. I'm going to share some of that with you all. But first, for those of you that haven't joined my C3 group, it is free. All you need to do at this point is just, you can buy one of these and send me the information. I know one of you did that this morning. I'm going to get you the invite link if you're watching this, or just simply sign up, or just sign up with 𝐬𝐚𝐧𝐭 under my referral link, which is linked to in the description, and then send me your user ID. And then I will give you much more information as far as trade setups is concerned. Like, I give the information there oftentimes before I do it here. Now, today I didn't really share a whole lot in there, but some days I'll be extremely comprehensive, especially on weekends when there is activity or things are starting to pick up. So I think it's a good investment. You don't have to pay much or anything if you just want to sign up for 𝐬𝐚𝐧𝐭. And these are resources that will help you in the months and years to come. So let's look at Bitcoin and try and make sense of this. It looks like we had the successful retest at 17,153. This is a critical weekly level. I mentioned that we needed to be especially alert at 17K. Once it cleared 17K, then we have clearance for it to potentially run all the way up to about 18K, 18,100. And this would be the test of the lower boundary of the previous range that could prove to be a deviation. So if we can get back inside, I'm really hopeful that this will happen. I would say there's maybe a 50-50 chance right now. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But if we can get back inside this 18,100, 18,200, if we can break above, show some strength here, then in that case, in all likelihood, it will run up at minimum to 21K and then potentially come all the way up to 25K. But I'm cautious. I'm definitely not saying that it's a guaranteed move. I'm hopeful that happens because it will bring a lot more interest back into these markets. But if we look from a lower time frame, it looks like it's wanting to top out here actually right now. We have some dojis after some stronger moves up out of this little range here, but we're kind of in no man's land right now. And because previously we had a rather thin move up and then all the way back down again, will it repeat this scenario? It's possible. So I'd be looking to, I'm definitely, if I wasn't, let's just put it this way. If I didn't have a position right now, I wouldn't be taking one. Okay. Either long or short. I only have a Bitcoin long. I took it down here. Okay. So chances are, I'm doubtful that we're going to see a push up today all the way up to 18K. If that happens, great. I will completely be out of this position because that's actually my take profit level, because I think there's going to be a lot of activity around 18K and I want to see a pattern develop and I want to see it start to hold. It's going to take a lot of upward force for it to hold above 18K. And if that happens, then we're going to see a continued rally in stocks. But the dollar does look like it has room to go lower here. I've been charting this one and it's obviously broken below this. We had the retest of this weekly range, broke below. So now it's kind of closer to the mid, but I think it could head all the way down to 101 and maybe even lower, but probably somewhere down here. And in the process of that happening, ES is likely to head much higher. Stock, you can see it's actually running straight into this trend line again. So we're getting another retest. Maybe it breaks through this time and we get back up to this 4100 level, which is the mid between the 2022 open and the 2022 low. So wouldn't that be something? It would not surprise me. So I do have some positions in some stocks. MicroStrategy is one of them. I know that HUT has been up, and that's the Bitcoin mining stock. It's been up pretty dramatically over the last couple of days. So there's a lot of activity around Bitcoin right now, and there is anticipation of more upside. And that's why I'm cautious. I think that it would not surprise me to see, especially if you look on the daily, look at all these green candles. We haven't had a red candle. 1, 2, 3, that's a doji right there. 3, 6, 9, 11 candles, pretty much all green. So it may come back and give us another retest of this 17,150, maybe even drop lower into this range and then pull up higher. So we might see something like this tomorrow. And that's at 3:30 in the morning my time. Sorry, trying to do two things at once. For those of you on the East Coast, that would be, what is that? That's 8:30. And on the West Coast, that's 5:30 in the morning. So I think that just prior to that, expect for the volatility to start to pick up. And yeah, just be careful around, especially between, I would say 3 o'clock, or actually I can't do that because we're on different time zones. So a half hour before and maybe an hour to 2 hours after, and then maybe wait for it to settle. Not financial advice, but that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm waiting to see. I want to see if Litecoin can break out here. Litecoin definitely has shown us that it wants to break above this weekly level. If we see, we've had multiple retests of this after the break above. Nice clean market structure here. And these are bullish rectangles. Here's one, here's another one, and it's broken down, tried to break down, but then back above, and then a strong candle, a strong push back up to the top of the range, broken down, and then another strong push back to the top of the range. It's still range bound, but when that breakout happens, boy, it's going to be something fierce for Litecoin, because we're looking at minimum targets at around 93.13, and then the next target I'd probably be targeting somewhere around 106, 107 for Litecoin. So that breakout's probably going to happen really fast. It might happen tomorrow morning. We'll see. And there's other ones too. Atom, well, that one's sort of hanging out in space right now as well. I'd want to see Atom come back. It's been doing this for, looks like a couple days now. I want to see it come back down to 1060. Maybe we get a deviation below and then gets back above again and then starts to push up. But actually, this is not as appealing to me as a token like Litecoin. Now, NEAR, on the other hand, just broke above this weekly level here. Look at that wick, though. It's probably going to come back inside. That looks like a tower top right there. I wouldn't necessarily short this, but I definitely won't long it here. But if it, and that's not a really healthy move here. It happened two very strong 1 hour candles. Probably isn't going to continue. It's running into that resistance. I exited this long a little bit too soon, a few days too soon, but it is what it is. This was actually my second take profit level for NEAR, right up here at 179. Oh well. So I think that NEAR will probably come back down from here, at least to this mid, and then it may come up again and try and retest. So I'd be looking to maybe long it somewhere down here. But I don't usually like to actually enter on a mid. I usually want to wait to see if it comes down all the way down to the range low, and then I would be looking to enter. So that would be around 159. And if Bitcoin and Ethereum really pull back here, then we can expect that. I think that Ethereum will likely pull back. I definitely, again, would you long this? No, because this is resistance. This monthly level right here, it hasn't ran into it yet. It might wick up there. but this is starting to look like a triple top to me. So maybe it starts to break down here. I wouldn't short this either because I'm bullish. The macro picture here is bullish. So I don't usually go against the trend unless it's a quick scalp. And I am not really interested in scalping because I'd rather catch the larger moves. So if Ethereum comes down, it's back down to 1300 and then starts to push back up again, that would be an obvious long for me. And then we'd be targeting, let's put some targets up here. I mean, the first target, conservative target, would be back up here, but then probably somewhere around 1450 for Ethereum, next target, and then we're targeting all the way, you could say 1580. I would go 1580 probably. And then ultimately you could have a target up here if you wanted to really get elaborate, 1676, this quarterly level here. But there's a lot of room for Ethereum, and it would be a really juicy play if it did come back down to this, to retest this. It wouldn't surprise me, just because we've been sitting here for so long now, and it looks like, what's the most obvious move? The most obvious move, it looks like it just wants to blast off, and for that reason it won't. It's gonna come back down and stop out a lot of people that got long a little late, like they got long here or here. So if I was in this from down here, then I'd probably just hold on to it, right? Because I think at most it's going to want to drop down. I don't know. I'd be surprised if it came down much lower than 1300, to be honest. And that's barring any powerful announcements from the Fed. I don't think they're going to really talk much about interest rates. It's just strictly going to be CPI. I don't know. You never know what they're gonna pull. So I haven't said hi to you all. I'm sorry. Hi, Stefan. Hi, 𝐬𝐚𝐧𝐭. Hi, Tombstone. I don't know your real name. Hi, Hi, Tabor. Stefan. What I said, a stop loss. I mean, I do have a stop loss. It's break even for me, but I do think that there's going to be some screwiness. I do think they're probably gonna move it strongly. I would expect it to do something like this, to come down hard and then come back up again and really take off. That's what I would expect, but I could be completely wrong. Look at AVAX partnership with Amazon. I didn't hear about that, but I will look at AVAX and see. I'm gonna get in the crypto world again. I've been dealing with some stocks lately. Wow, look at that. Jesus. Yeah, I wouldn't long this, no. But look at what it did. Look at where why was there resistance? This is what we need to figure out here. Like, it didn't just arbitrarily pause somewhere in space. Like, that is a supply zone right there. You see that? Maybe it pushes higher, but how much higher does it have to go here? And there's another resistance level right here. But this is an obvious supply zone. So it wicked straight up near the top of it, and now it's showing some resistance. But the other thing I will say, it actually is acting pretty irrational right now. So sometimes you have to throw TA out the window when the fundamental analysis comes in. A partnership with Amazon is a pretty big deal. I don't know exactly what that means. I'll have to read about it, but no, I don't like to long in this sort of a scenario. What I would rather see is I'd rather see it come back down and start to find some support. Like if AVAX comes down, these levels just seem off to me. Let me just take a look at this and make sure that things shift around, and I haven't looked at this chart in a while. So yeah, actually that's wrong. That was many weeks ago. So this would be the weekly level here that I'd be looking at now. And we can just get rid of this here. Not still significant. Yep, that's what I'm really working with here. So I think that I'd want to see AVAX come back down again and at minimum come to here and see what it does here. This is 1390. And then if it continues to consolidate and then we see a pattern, it breaks above that pattern, great. Then by all means long it. But I think upside is more limited for AVAX. I mean, who knows? It could come all the way. It could continue. I mean, it could continue to rock it. But this is, how much is this today? 16%. I mean, the way it's been with some of these alts, and it looks like, yeah, it looks like it wants to go higher. This is gambling at this point. This is a gamble. I need to see patterns. I need to see healthy trends. This is not a healthy trend. This is a one-shot move here. So that's just my take. Yeah, it's sitting. Maybe is this a monthly level? Yeah, I would expect resistance here. I would be very careful longing this. But if it does come back down to 1390, set an alert here and see. Now then I'd be interested again. So I just covered Ethereum. I'm waiting for a pullback down to 1300, that area down there. Of course, you could drop down to the lower time frames and see what happens tomorrow. We've got this level here. If it comes back down, if maybe it doesn't make it all the way down, maybe we get a move back down to here, and then it starts to consolidate here, and we see a pattern develop and it breaks above on the 15-minute, and then we start seeing some sustained movement to the upside. This would also be a long trigger for me. But where it sits right now, I really feel like it has to come down at minimum, at least down to here, get some of the shorts engaged here, liquidate some of the longs, make room for the move up. So that's a smart money perspective on that. Litecoin really has tried multiple times to break out, and it hasn't yet. But when it does, I think it's really going to fly. So that one's on my radar. BNB, I haven't looked at in a few days. We're still a little bit in the middle of this range here. This is a range within a larger range. These are weekly levels. These are daily levels. So it needs to somehow break free of this. Either it comes down here, down to 258, and then pushes back up. There's a long trigger. Maybe take profit here, and then looking at targeting somewhere up around 389. Okay, either it does that or it just continues north, and then we get, in this case, I probably wouldn't long from here, but I would be considering a long if it came up here and started to show some strength here. Okay, and initial target here would be 389, and then up by 453 for BNB. But this isn't one of my preferred charts. It's just I haven't liked this as much as ADA. ADA really had a strong move, and it looks like maybe I caught this move down here, but I got out of it somewhere over here, and then it just kept going. Sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes you hit a supply zone and it just breaks right through the first time. It's rare, but it does happen. And I don't know if there was any sort of a news announcement around this, but once you've seen this, this is only trade worthy if there's a pattern that really develops and we start to establish a range here. Like if it starts to range from here for a while, which it could, it starts to range, and then we have something to work with. But if it just rockets up, then that's not a sustainable move, and that's not something I'm gonna try and jump on. Okay, and the same goes if it just drops down really quickly. I want to see it settle. It needs to settle after a big move. Sometimes you happen to catch that move before and you ride it out, but if you weren't in somewhere over here or here even, at this point, it's too late in the game. That's just my own personal risk management strategy with altcoins, because you know that they are illiquid. You know that there's a high probability that it's going to be all over the place. A lot of attention, ADA has generated a lot of attention because of this. And just like 𝐬𝐨𝐽𝐬𝐧, the same principles apply. Like 𝐬𝐨𝐽𝐬𝐧 is generating a lot of attention right now. People who wouldn't normally pay attention to it are. All kinds of traders are getting involved. We're in a highly competitive environment. Smart money's mostly on the sidelines, and they're waiting for the prime opportunity to crush it down. Think about it that way, okay? So just be careful. Yeah, 6.5 CPI. I mean, it's garbage because they're saying it's supposed to be 2% year over year. It's 6.5. It's ridiculous. It's multi-decade highs. And it's like, well, if it's a little bit lower, then what does that mean? You know, I try and wrap my head around it. What does that mean for the dollar? What does that mean for stocks? I don't really know. All I know is that I'm going to respond to what I see tomorrow morning at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not looking forward to getting up that early for it. And I'm not a big fan of Jay Powell. I don't understand why one person or one group of people, I should say, has so much sway over the markets, but that's the way it goes. So I'm going to get off my pedestal now and I'm going to talk about sushi. Sushi, I caught this move too, but I also got out of this one somewhere around here, and now it's actually back down at this level. Looks a little toppy. Maybe it comes back and it revisits somewhere $1 and then starts to break back above. I feel like I'm not really as interested in sushi right now. But can you see why it hit resistance here? I mean, can you see this little ledge before the drop? Makes sense, right? And now it's tried twice. What are the chances that it's going to push back up a third time? It's got a stronger probability after hitting the zone twice and rejecting that it's going to head down. And I would say at minimum down to 101, 102, more likely down, back down to $1 or so. But at the same time, this could actually be the retest that we've been looking for. No, that's not what I want. This could be the retest of this larger range here after we get the deviation back inside that I mentioned here. So this could be the bigger retest, and then it blasts up and it comes and we come up much higher. And then in that case, if you're looking at more of like a positional play, then take profits would be somewhere probably in this mid here, and then here, and then ultimately somewhere up here for sushi, if that happens. But we need some clearance first. It needs to pull back here. If it continues from here, then I would just sit it out and wait and see what happens next. Solana I haven't really been paying much attention to. It's sort of consolidating. Again, it looks like it wants to pull back. I think it should at minimum pull back to 1475. Probably ready to come down a little bit lower than that, to be honest with you. Maybe we get a deviation back inside and then it breaks above here. Okay, in that case, there's your long trigger for Solana. This one actually does have some appeal for me because it has been relatively strong after this massive sell-off. And let's face it, this sell-off was not really warranted. I mean, it really wasn't. There wasn't really any good reason aside from the FTX contagion. You know, it's like, in which doesn't really make sense. Just because they were invested in it doesn't mean that the project is any less of a project. And Vitalik actually is the reason that we had this bottom here. Vitalik was like, you know, I want to see this succeed. And basically, that's what he said. I'm paraphrasing, but you know, and of course, it makes sense that Solana is going to come back. I'm not saying it's going to be what it was. It may never get back to its glory days, but I wouldn't fade this. I'll put it that way. I would not. I have no plans to fade Solana. I want to see it come down to 1487 and then start to break back up again to the upside and show some strength. So that's my 2 cents on Solana. So just to be clear, Shizzy, I won't short anything right now. I'm not shorting anything. If it was a scalp play, then I would consider a short. But I don't see any scalp plays that are high enough reward for me relative to the risk. That's the short end of it. If there's any other alts that you want me to look at, please share them in the chat, because I have my list here of those that I've been paying close attention to, and I can scroll through some other ones in a moment here. Let me look at my other lists and see if there's anything that I'm missing. XRP was one that XRP looks like it wants to move up more. But I don't have a clear enough read on this from here. I guess we do have a level here. Yeah, I won't long it from here. But maybe if XRP, if we start to see if tomorrow, if we start to see it come down and then it finds some support down here, like 35,355, and then it gets back up, and then we get a pattern, and then we get a break above, then I would long this, but I wouldn't long it from right here. I'm cautious about the alts right now. I'm cautious until we get some clarity after the CPI tomorrow. But I would be targeting, this would be a primary target, more conservative target, of course, and then we have this mid. I don't know if this is actually even. Where is this? What is this mid for? See, it helps to be up on your charts, and I haven't been. Yeah, it's a little bit off. This is the mid from here. That makes sense. So here would be another target. So we have this weekly level, then we have the mid between these quarterly levels here, and then I'd probably be taking profits somewhere up here. My profit taking is tighter than it has historically been, because there's more chop, there's less clarity, there's less volatility. So you've got to be more aggressive when it comes to snatching profits. But this is obviously going to be a resistance level, right? I mean, it was previous support. It's obviously, and here's the range. So actually, this is a little bit high, so a little bit lower here. So there's your trade setup for XRP. It does look like, I mean, this does look like a bottom, right? And it pushed all the way down here. So we've already ran the stops. So it looks, now it's back inside here. So this could be a good play tomorrow, but we've got to wait on that. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I hate it when I do that, when I delete the flags accidentally. You ever do that on TradingView? It's like, what chart did I have now? I think it was this one. Okay, I don't know what all this garbage is, but we're going to get rid of it. And I don't know about this. I'm not even going to bother with Dogecoin. Forget that. No thanks. I think we went over Phantom the other day. Wow, look what happened. Well, we hit the first take profit level. So it successfully reclaimed this range. And now it's chopping around down here. So maybe we get a retest. Just the mantra right now is wait for the retest. Wait for the pullback. Here's the retest. This is around 23.232. And then be targeting initial targets here, 0.2486. And then up here, this is 0.25. That's just if you're playing this little range here, but then we've got more obvious target. This weekly level would be up here, 0.2733 for Phantom. Oh yeah, I don't even know why. Okay, that's just, okay, so link Let's see where Link is at. Link appears to be consolidating above this previous resistance level, so that's actually a promising sign. Okay, this one I think has a lot of potential, and we need to see it clear up here first. So maybe we get the pullback. Of course, there's always the short scenario. I mean, the short scenario here would be it comes down and starts to break down. Obvious short trigger here, right? And then be shorting it down at minimum down to 588. But I feel like more likely it comes back down and then it starts to, and then it reclaims, and then that would be a long trigger. And then initial target would be here. That's 622, but then actually there's a lot more room for Link to run. So this is a supply zone here. It did come up a little bit higher, broke down, but now it's range bound. It's not showing that it wants to break down beneath. We see these wicks here, rejection wicks. So there's demand stepping in. This is a pivot here. So you can see this resistance is pivoting into support. And so in this case, this would be an excellent place for a long, in my humble opinion, for me personally, if it comes back down and retests. But the timing needs to be, if it happens in the next couple of hours, then I'm not necessarily going to enter into a long position. If it happens tomorrow morning, then I might. I most likely will. But then where would the targets be for Link? This is 643. This is prior to this supply zone. So how am I identifying these supply zones? It's just a little ledge. Just think of it as a little ledge where the price pauses, but it doesn't stay there for too long, and then there's a big sharp drop down. So it's the origin of the move. Okay, so usually I target the middle of the supply zone, but sometimes the first time especially it comes up to that, a conservative take profit level would be 643, right? Because that would be the very bottom of that. Sometimes it'll wick just to that and then reject, and that's, you missed your chance, right? But then oftentimes it'll come at least to the mid. Sometimes it'll shoot right past it temporarily. But here you have your first take profits here, second take profit. Conservative is 643. More aggressive would be like 656, and then a more moderate take profit would be somewhere in the middle. So more often than not, I put my take profits somewhere in the middle of these supply zones. I try and strike a balance between the two extremes. Yeah, there's a website. I mean, you could there's certain people that you could follow on Twitter, or you could, I mean, the best thing to do is just go to fxstreet.com/economic calendar. But like I said, the number doesn't matter so much. If you filter this by high impact, because there's going to be a lot of events on here that are pretty much meaningless, and then you go through and you change your calendar, it'll tell you. So tomorrow you can see I have CPI, and you could see the consensus previous and then the actual. So the actual will show up. But you also see, hold on, I'm going to shut my window. There's somebody weed whacking next door. So I hope that answers your question. You'll see it on the website, but you also can find it on TradingView. I think if you'll see they have. Let's see if we have it for. If I go to the Dixie. So I mean, you'll get your headlines for the Dixie. And then it'll tell you. So you usually get some sort of a news article that's released right around the time as well. And you could see U.S. investors bet on inflation data being benign. So benign means probably more upside in the stock market and more downside with the Dixie. But you never know. So What else? Anything else before we hop off here? Any other questions or anything else that you want to address here today? I'm all ears. I'm uh, open. I'm open to sharing whatever may be valuable. I think that I'd like to see Bitcoin push up into 18K, but what I want to happen and what the market actually wants to do are two different things. So maybe sometimes they're aligned, sometimes they're not. I've been saying it in the C3. I wouldn't fade anything here, even though I do think there is a pullback that's in play. I don't go against the trend. I'm a trend trader. I'm a price action trader. The trend is up. The market structure is intact. We haven't seen a strong pullback yet. It's likely, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen sometime today or tomorrow early in the morning. And if that's the case, then we watch very carefully and we wait to see. It can be it's very tempting when you're not in a trade and you see, and the CPI data comes out or the FOMC or whatever it is, and there's a big move in one direction. Just remember that a lot of the times, not all the times, but a lot of the times, it will reverse at some point, or it will do what you least expect it to do. So there are those who are able to scalp and get in on these momentum moves. And there have been times where I've done it, and there's been other times where it's just been very, very stressful. And I would rather see what happens after things settle. So I can't remember exactly what spawned this. I think there was an FOMC, wasn't there, around December 14th? Was this the FOMC? And then we had initially, this was a big strong move up on the 4H, right? Let's break it down on an hourly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe, if I remember correctly, this was the FOMC in December. And we had, heading into it, right, we had a lot of positive momentum. It looked like it wanted to continue to the upside, but hardly anybody, I mean, smart traders were paying attention. Here was your resistance. Here was your supply. It moved up straight into the middle of it, right? And then instantly rejected. And this hour candle should have tipped you off. But if you'd have gotten in somewhere over here thinking, well, it's going to keep going, it's going to keep going, look at the strength of this market right now, boom. And there's a big sign to short. And I shorted this, and I shorted it down to here. Unfortunately, I thought maybe there would be a bounce. I was a little bit suspicious. It didn't bounce. It kept going. So I got out of the trade down here. I still made some money on this, but this was after, okay? So just remember that this happened after the FOMC. It takes time. And then, but you could have waited until all of this, and you see that it's starting to break down. Okay, and now we have this level here, and it's breaking down. It's showing weakness. It's not pushing up. Okay, here's a short trigger after all of this. And this is sort of an anticipatory move, but even if you'd waited till here, right, it broke down, you know, and some people were maybe waiting, well, let's see if it retests. And that's why I got out down here thinking, well, maybe it retests. It didn't retest. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the weakness was, it showed up, it wasn't immediately apparent. And so that's what I'd be watching out for. Ideally, we see something that's sort of the opposite of what we saw in the last meeting, that we see something where we see a big, strong red candle, but then we see that completely engulfed the next hour, and it goes and it pushes all the way back up again. And in that case, then I'd continue the bullish bias. But stocks have been strong, and like I said, until the 𝐸𝐴𝐺, it comes back up here, we're looking at, I would say, minimum target 40.50, 4,100. If it comes back up here, then I think at this point, this rally could be reaching its completion, but you never know. It could continue higher from there. But for me, as a stock trader, I'm gauging I'm basically determining my movements with stocks and when to exit based off of what I see here, if that makes sense. Maybe it comes up to this monthly level somewhere around 4170, but I don't know. I still think that the macro climate is bearish, and we need to not get too excited and always zoom out and be willing to be wrong or to pivot on a moment's notice, if that makes sense. So that's all I've got for you today. There's not a whole lot of interest in cryptocurrency in general right now. Man, I've been getting, it really helps me, just positive comments and feedback right now, because I'm not getting, I really appreciate those of you. Let me just put it that way. I really appreciate those of you that have been positive and have embraced this new version of my channel, where I'm sharing trading, but I'm also sharing about life. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Do your thing. But this is who I am, and I really appreciate the positive feedback that I've been receiving on this channel, and that helps me a lot. So thank you. Please like the video. I never used to ask people to like my videos. I usually don't, but just like the video. It's not that hard. Just a little click. If you got some value. If you got zero value from this video, then tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear that. Like, what was totally wrong with this video? Because I don't think that, if you can't find value in a video like this, then I'm sorry, because you ain't going to make it. You're not going to make it. That's the way it is. Though some of you are really smart. You guys are already smart money and you don't know it. You're really smart because you're paying attention right now. You watch this stream this long. And this is where I start really dropping the alpha. Somebody the other day was complaining because I wasn't sharing about the bear market projects. And I'm like, where have you been? Like, you've had your head up your ass this whole bear market, because I have been, but I'm doing it in a very subtle way. And I'm also doing it in specific reports. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for continuing with your encouragement. And yeah, I really appreciate you all. So I just got to ignore those people. Some days it's just like, I put out a really good video yesterday. I liked the video. I was proud of the video. And that was one of the only comments that I got initially. And I was just like, man, like, it is not easy being a content creator. It is not easy being an influencer, right? It's just, you're public and people can say whatever they want, and you've got to have a tough shell. And that's the one thing that I've learned that has been really powerful for me over the last year, because I've really only been doing this for about a year now. I've been on YouTube for 2 years, but this channel is only about a year old. It's a little over a year old now. So yes, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Matej. Thank you all for your support. And yeah, pay attention, and I'll be giving my signals as usual in the C3. So have a beautiful rest of your day.